Okay, so it's been some time since my last video, but I yet live, and fortunately, since so much time has passed, I did want to come back with something somewhat relevant. And I have that because the next build of Reforged has been given to me, somewhat fortunately. So we can take a little look about what we can expect moving forward. Now, this is not fully finished. There are still some UI and graphical things that need to be implemented, but most of what the mechanical changes are going to be are there, I believe. So let's have a little look. I mean, first of all, we'll just take a look at what's new in terms of the rosters before actually going into a battle. And this video is really just going to be to outline some of the changes. I'll go into a bit more detail later on, but as you can see, the first thing to note is these 4 new icons down here. So the splitting off of certain factions has begun. So we have Umbar, Khand, Dol Amroth, and the Woodland Realm sort of splitting off from Gondor, Rune, and Harad, and I believe the Sylvan Elves respectively. So let's take a little look at some of these. Well, for a start, let's take a look at what's new in the factions that are already existing. So Gondor, of course, is largely the same as, well, a lot of the units from Vanilla are here. There are going to be a few more though, so we have some Citadel Archers, the Veterans of Osgiliath, so that's interesting, Shielded Fountain Guard, and you get the sort of thing, because now with factions being split off, there are going to be certain gaps in factions that weren't there before. So for example, with Gondor, they now have Lossarnach Nobles, slightly better shock infantry to make up for the fact that they don't have Haven Guard anymore. But Gondor, primarily a shield-based faction, as was said previously. Let's take a little look at some of the all-new factions. Now, for a start, we have Umbar. Now, Umbar actually is, you know what to expect from Umbar, because essentially all of their units were in Harad before. Any unit that doesn't have a unique portrait is essentially a new one at this point. Corsair's Dual Swordsman. It's a rather interesting sounding unit. Corsair's Fencer. And Warlords of Umbar. So, some of the factions are bigger than others, but again, all of this new stuff is exciting, because there's a lot of units to choose from now, and particularly with Khand. Khand is something that I did have a look at before, and pretty much every unit in here is new. There are some which are basically from Rune, like the Brotherhood of the Axe, and the Nomadic Warriors, and some of the lower tier units. Some of these units, like Khandish Marauders, and Haru's heavy infantry and light infantry, they're all new Ito units. I'd like to see what some of these look like on the battlefield, and we will get to that. I believe the idea behind Khand is to have a bit more of a cavalry focused, or at least a mobility focused army, more so than outright numbers and muscle. You can tell really from some of the numbers in their units, in some of their better units like the Ito Warrior Priestesses, that they're designed a little bit more around being clever. And let's have a look at Dol Amroth. Dol Amroth, of course, most of their units came from Gondor. There are a few new additions here though. All of the cavalry units are very familiar, as are most of the ground-based units. But they do have Talon Knights, which is a sword and shield unit, an elite one, and the Tarnastian Guard. So yeah, interesting. And the Woodland Realms. Now the Woodland Realms look like more of an offshoot of the Sylvan Elves, and they have a few new units to speak of. Elder Council, they've got a new portrait. Foresters of Haleth. Again, some of these are a bit small at the moment, but then that's to be expected. They were split off from regular factions. And to take another faction that was in here before at random, let's take a look at one of the factions that got split. So let's have a look at Harad, see what they've got going on. Yeah, they've just got a few more. Muhad Burke. Pretty much every faction has got at least something new, I believe. Or they are a new faction all in their own right. Let's have a look at Isengard. Do they have new things? It doesn't look like it. Oh no, they do. Half-Orc Spear Guard and Half-Orc Bane Guard. So they have some lower tier units and some Warg Skirm. Well, they were in there before. They've lost their portrait though. Nazakai Bodyguard as well. So the Nazakai now have a bodyguard variant. There are 168 of them? Bloody hell. That is a large amount. But again, this is a work in progress build. It's not quite ready to be released yet, so I'm quite fortunate to be having a look at it right now. Let's have a look at Arnor. Arnor, well, they do have some as well. Arnor Gate Guards, another spear unit it looks like, and the Arthur Dane Swords. Interesting. So let's take a little look at some of the new units for Khand, I think. That was a faction that I didn't expect to be split off as early as it was, but they certainly have a lot of new things to them, so let's get some Ito Warrior print. Actually, I need to increase my money. There we go. Let's have a look at some other new things. Let's have a look at all of the Ito units. And Ito Assassins. Then let's have a look at all of the Haru's units. I hope it doesn't crash on me after all of this. Haru's Archers. Nuranag. Or Nurnyag. My pronunciation is probably bad. Ito Windblades. Let's just take all of the new foot soldier units. I believe those are new. Okay, now let's take all of the new. Well, let's just take a look at this. I don't want it to crash, and I think at the moment there are a few. Rohan. Oh no, Rohan do have another. Bloody hell, 6 hit points. Helm Hammers. Cool. Well, you know what? Let's make their unit that one, just so we can see them as well. I hope this doesn't crash. I also hope that I've left it on higher quality, just so we can see the units in all their glory. Although I think I did actually leave it on medium since last time, but perhaps for the sake of stability, this is for the best. Okay, so let's see. There's a lot of units that we've got. Looks like one of them is not able to take a formation, but that's fine. Let's have a little look here at canned. So here we have the Ito Warrior Priestesses. Now this looked like a very higher ranking unit. They look rather interesting actually. They look kind of... I don't know what to make of them actually. I like their weaponry. Sort of like glaives. They look almost Mongolian actually in terms of... Well, they're certainly Far Eastern inspired, some of these units. With these hats, I suppose you'd call them. And the general wooden nature of their shields. What was that spy unit called in Shogun 2? Geishas? Something like that. I think that's what the Ito Warrior Priestesses remind me of. Ito Militia, lower tier unit, but they look pretty cool. I like the new design. And then moving up we have Ito Footmen. I guess these are more Chinese inspired though than anything like Japanese or maybe Mongolian. And again we have Ito Assassins. They look pretty cool as well. Looking like a light armor faction, but again that's to be expected with their focus on mobility. And this is a more Mongolian inspired unit, certainly from the hats and the general armor. Again, slightly heavier versions of the same unit, and an archer version of that unit. And then we have Nuranag. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that until someone tells me how to. Then we have some Shogun 2 like banners over here, and then we have some raiders. They look like they can't take a tight formation, and then the Marauders. Now this is a lower tier unit that can't take a formation, but they should be good at being cannon fodder. And now let's go and take a look at the Helden Hammers, I believe they're called. Rohan, finally, my word, look at those shields. They've got hammers as well, so Helm Hammers. So certainly going to be a unit you're only going to be seeing one of on the field, I believe, but even so. Right, anyway, we should probably quit out from here, and we'll take another look at a faction and then probably wrap up the video, because I don't really want to reveal too much, because I do want some content for the videos to come, of course. So a quick look at the forces of Umbar as well, and you have the Corsairs Dual Swordsman again. Corsairs, fairly basic units, but it's nice to see another variant of them. And then we have the Fencers, who have dual rapiers, it looks like, and that's fairly cool. And they also have 2 hit points, so they're going to be fairly difficult to fell. And then of course we have the new Intended Generals unit. Umbar are not really a cavalry heavy faction, but the Warlords of Umbar give them a cavalry unit that they can use, and there are of course some others, because Umbar lacking cavalry at all would be a bit of a problem for them. They look very cool though. I like the blue effect that they have to sort of tell themselves apart from some of their counterparts. And I've decided to bring Dale along, because Dale have got quite a few new units as well, including some of these Lake Town Infantry, which look pretty cool for a basic unit. Basic units looking cool is always a good thing, because of course it's going to be what your army is mostly made out of, in addition to the spearmen as well. Now the Dale Dragon Slayers are going to be an interesting unit to behold, because... hold on a moment. I'll just bring them forwards. Because their arrow weight is presumably higher, so they hit a lot harder, in addition to just being better in general. Then we have the Dale Paladins, who have these very large two-handed maces. Some of these units look absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to trying these out in a more scientific way. Those Paladins. Dale having a bit more of an infantry, a bit more muscle in their infantry was needed, because they were overpowered a little bit, but of course the mechanics of the game have changed a little bit since last I played, so it is worth noting that things have changed quite considerably, and there goes the frame rate. And some basic units fighting. I do like the new Lake Town aesthetic. I imagine the Dale Paladins are going to have their way with most all of my units. Even the fencers aren't going to stand up too well to them, I don't think. Let's see how a charge goes. They're coming after my general? Brave! Considering you're on foot. You watch as this cavalry charge bounces off them. Well, they're going for it. The AI clearly thinks they can do some sort of damage. How much damage did I do to them? Well, that was an absolutely ridiculous move by the AI, because I mowed over them like freshly cut grass. Interesting. So, I guess cavalry's mass has been increased, but again, this is something that I will have to look into a little bit more thoroughly as time goes along. But I hope this has given you at least a taste of what is to come with regards to this submod, and over the next couple of days I hope to go through this a little bit more thoroughly, and maybe even start to have a look at some of the factions in depth. But of course I am reluctant to go into new top 10 lists, because of course they need to be completely redone now because of the large amounts of units on display. Mainly because there are so many new additions, and also I need to wait until it's in a state that everyone can play, otherwise it's not particularly relevant. So I'm back making stuff again, which is nice, and I hope to see you for the next video.